Right now, we are gasping and dying when we should be living and thriving. This is the new millennium. The Gulf of Mexico oil spill happened because you didn't care. You allowed others to tell you that Earth is not something sacred, not a living part of our lives. Earth is just an object to be used and abused and has nothing to do with our spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional health. Others have been laughing at you. You've been perfectly set up. Oh, you think protecting the environment is just something out there. It's a hobby, or it's for these crazy hippies or some shit like that. Right now, the Gulf of Mexico is dying, is being killed. And what took millions of years to reach to a point of life beyond any amount of time that you can imagine is dying. The shit that's happening on the coast, that is just a fraction of the great suffering and writhing that's going on out to sea. And I guarantee you it's being permanently damaged from the low water all the way up through the water column. If you have ever been swimming and stayed underwater a little bit longer than you expected and you came up gasping for air, imagine what it's like to be a sea turtle who is ancient, and there are the sperm whales or the dolphins or any of them, you're coming up and then you get a lungful of oil or toxic fumes and sometimes knock you out. This great death is sweeping the water, and it happened because you didn't care. You know, I remember back in the what was it, 89, the Exxon Valdez oil spill. Back then I was on the streets of New York and I was trying to desperately avoid homelessness. And when you're sitting or sleeping on a park bench, you use newspapers to keep from getting wet. I watched the foreboding of the world. All these other things were happening too. And it was just increasing my sense of inevitable doom. But somehow I had this idea that sometime in the new millennium things could, you know, maybe if we held on we could make it through. And now things seem to be almost getting worse. When we talk about the body of Christ, I don't believe that spirit is separate from the flesh. We have come to accept this pathological violence that we do to earth and each other as perfectly normal behavior. And guess what? We accepting that same violence into ourselves. In this lifetime I've journeyed through some of the last frontiers of American violence and desperation, and I still am holding on to, you know, hard, determined steps and health forward for our lives, for the planet, for our children's health and future. And if you have a kid right now, you probably love your kid. But alright, start thinking about what type of world he or she is going to be living on within 25, 30 years. Ignoring our body and blood, what's right before our eyes, may just have been our fatal mistake. We become so timid, we're afraid to talk about what's holy and what's sacred, or any ethical moral compass. We can't talk about the environment, or it's like because we might be crossing a line here. We can only even all the animals and sea life that lives out there, we're only talking about it in terms of seafood, as if what dollar value they are to us, rather than the sacred belonging of life that's part of our flesh and blood, culture and soul. I want to have a fertile life, and it's not even just for me. Without that open door, a promise of fertility and a future of possibility that we have to create now for those, our kids, and for the others we share this planet with, there is no hope. I guess you just want to be annihilated, huh? I love the Gulf of Mexico. She and my son and I practically grew up on the beaches of Galveston. And so to watch and have to accept this great death, after having to accept so many of the deaths in this life and watching everything just continually spiral down into doom is beyond painful. And that great writhing out there that's happening out to sea right now at this moment, while we are really not knowing what to do, you know, rips me apart. All causes are connected, and it really boils down to the oppressed against those that do the oppressing. Who said that? Malcolm X, and he got shot. I'm going to take you one step further. Alright, so if it's the oppressed against those that do the oppressing, what if that cause that's connected to everything is really the oppression you're doing against your own self? The violence we do to the earth mirrors the violence we do to each other, and often accepted to ourselves. And I'm sick of that violence. I want to be healthy, and I want you to be too, and I want you to act now and not be dead, not be a dead, okay? I'll talk with you later.